In this video, I want to continue on with the equipment series where I go through a specific technique and I'll talk about the rod, reel, and line that I like for that technique. Now today we're talking all about the jerkbait. Jerkbaits are by far one of my favorite baits to fish. I feel like every year I get on a couple of really good jerkbait bites on different lakes. It's a bait that I have a ton of confidence in, and I have a ton of confidence in kind of the system, the rod, reel, and line that I like for a jerkbait. If you look at a lot of people and what they like for jerkbaits across the internet, like it is a little bit all over the place. I really feel like I've developed the perfect kind of system for it. But anyways, we're gonna get into it in this video. Now, before we get into that, this one's brought to you by my apparel company, Fin Fishing. Guys, I have finally come out with a pair of shorts for fin fishing that I'm really super proud of. It's something that took many years in the works, and this is the finished product. This is the duck shorts by Fin Fishing, and they are a super durable, lightweight, stretchy material that is also water resistant. I'm really in love with these shorts. I wear them all the time. I'm wearing some right now as we speak. They're really awesome. And anyways, right now, because they are a new product, they are on sale on the website. So I'm gonna leave some links down below in the description. Shopping at Fin Fishing is truly the best way to help support this channel. I greatly appreciate all of you who have done so. All right, let's talk about the jerkbait. A jerkbait to me was actually a bait that I hated back in the day. And then I got on a couple of good jerkbait bites, and then I just fell deep into jerkbaiting. I absolutely love a jerkbait. I fish for a lot of smallmouth. Smallmouth love jerkbaits, but no matter where you live in the country, I mean, Florida, Bama, Ohio, New York, a jerkbait is a player and it catches a lot of fish and some really big fish. Now, the thing about a jerkbait, like I said, you will hear a lot of different guys talk about different systems, different equipment options that work for them. And so in this video, I'm just gonna tell you what works for me and why I like to use it. Now, let's first start with what I think is the most important part of the jerkbait, and that is the rod. The rod is crucial to me when it comes to a jerkbait because you want a rod out there that is going to allow you to fish comfortably and allow you to not lose a ton of jerkbait fish. We all know that treble hooks and hard baits can be a disaster at times with losing fish, whether that's crankbaits, jerkbait, lipless crankbaits, topwaters. It can be an absolute disaster. Now, I have always believed for a number of years that you want a parabolic bending rod whenever you're fishing a hard bait with treble hooks, no matter what it is. Like I said, it could be a crankbait, it could be a topwater, it could be a glide bait. A parabolic bending rod is perfect for keeping fish pegged that you hook, no matter what that lure is, and that is exactly what you want in a good jerkbait rod. Now, for a number of years, what I did was I started using my 7-foot, crankbait rod that I use a lot for jerkbaits. The thing about that crankbait rod is that it was a composite rod, meaning that it was half fiberglass and half graphite. And the thing about a composite rod that's half glass, half graphite is that they typically are a little bit heavier when it comes to like the actual weight of the rod. And so although that rod worked really well, I caught a ton of fish and lost very few fish, it became a little bit much on my wrist and on my hand when I had to throw a jerkbait all day long. And so I know it may not sound like a huge difference, but over the years, what I found is that I actually like more of a graphite rod now that has that same kind of parabolic bend to it because graphite is substantially lighter in your hand. Now, a number of years ago, the rod that I fell in love with when it came to jerkbait fishing was actually a Daiwa rod. And to me, it was the absolute perfect rod, and then I kind of transitioned over to fishing a lot of ARC products, and this was the one thing that I was a little bit scared of at first because I loved that Daiwa rod, and then I found this rod right here. This is the ARC Tharp Series One-Eyed Jack rod, and this rod is actually specifically made for a jerkbait, and I highly recommend this rod because it, to me, has the exact same power, action, it's even the same length as that old Daiwa jerkbait rod that I love so much. And this thing has caught hundreds of bass for me. I actually have 3 of these rods. I love them so much, and to me, they are the perfect jerkbait rod. And the best thing about the arc rod versus the Daiwa rod is this one's actually cheaper. It's a quality rod, but it is less expensive than some of the rods that I used to use. So this right here, to me, is the perfect rod. It is a medium power. It is a moderate bending rod. And the one thing that I will tell you is that a lot of people that I have fished with in the past, they've picked up this rod, they love it, but when they go to use it, they realize that how kind of almost whippy this rod is. And so I think that it's a little bit of a turnoff at first, but the thing that you really need to think about, and the thing that is so important when it comes to a jerkbait, is that most jerkbaits out there on the market have really thin wire hooks on them. I mean, think about the most popular jerkbait of all, which is the Vision 110. It has those kind of reverse barb hooks on them. Those are a very light wire hook. And I saw this even with using that composite crankbait rod, but definitely using a graphite rod that has more of a, let's say, fast action. It may feel good to pop that rod, but when you hook into a fish and you set the hook, you will find that you will bend those hooks out, those light wire hooks on your jerkbait if you are using kind of a fast action rod a lot of times, because it's just a stiffer rod, especially when using fluorocarbon line, which I'll talk about fluorocarbon in just a minute here. But that is why I like this rod. I'm telling you, this rod, I've caught hundreds of bass. I mean, largemouth, big smallmouth, I mean, spotted bass. I have caught so many bass on this rod. I'm telling you, it is the best jerkbait rod that I have found out there on the market. And so you could go with this arc rod. There's also other comparable rods for a lot of different brands out there. So I would highly suggest finding something though, just like this, 6 foot 9 inches in length, medium power, moderate action. Great, great rod. All right, let's talk about the line now. And again, I use fluorocarbon, straight fluorocarbon, and I am typically using 10-pound tests. To me, I think that 10-pound is perfect for most situations. I will go up to 12 and 14 depending on the cover that I'm fishing around. If I'm fishing around, say for example, standing timber, like if you went down south and you're fishing standing timber and maybe you're fishing around some really big fish, 14-pound is probably what I'm gonna go with in that situation, because I simply don't wanna break off. Like fishing 10-pound and you might catch an 8 to 10-pounder in that standing timber is not good. But for a lot of the fishing that I do up here, kind of in the Midwest and North, 10-pound or even 12-pound is perfect all around good line. Now, there is a big misconception when it comes to jerk baits that I've heard over the years, even by professional anglers, is that if you go with a heavier pound test, say a 14 or a 15-pound test, that you will actually keep that jerk bait higher in the water column. And I believe this for a little while because we've always heard the same thing when it comes to like crankbaits and other baits. But the thing about a jerkbait that's different than a crankbait is that a lot of time when you are working a jerkbait, especially in colder water, you are pausing that bait. So you might jerk it 2, 3, 4 times and let that bait pause. Now, because you are pausing that bait, that fluorocarbon is actively sinking in the water column. So on a long cast, if you are pausing it, the heavier your fluorocarbon is, 14, 15-pound line, the deeper it's actually gonna kind of go. And so you will actually see that fluorocarbons that are heavier pound tests will actually drag your bait down a lot of times unless you're working the bait extremely fast. If you're working it extremely fast, it's really not gonna do anything different than your 10 and 12-pound tests normally would. If anything, it may help keep that bait higher in the water column, but a lot of times when I fish a jerkbait, there's some sort of pause in there, whether it's 2 seconds or 10 seconds, and that's going to drag that bait down. But anyways, 10-pound test, 12-pound test, those are perfect all around good fluorocarbon pound test that I would use. All right, let's talk about the reel real quick. You want a reel, first and foremost, that can just cast lighter baits. There's a lot of jerk baits on the market that have a really good weight transfer system in them. I mean, the Vision 110s, these Berkeley baits, I can't think of the name of them, the Stunnas, they cast great, but there are a lot of jerk baits that are made out of balsa on the market and that are actually Like for example, the Vision 110, it's not made out of balsa, but they have a version of it that's a silent version where they take BBs out of it. So it's a lighter bait, which can be difficult to cast with bait casting equipment in like wind of some sort. So you want a good reel that casts lighter baits. This is the Art Gravity 5. It's by far one of my favorite baits, or favorite bait casters that I've ever used. I like something in the 7 range. Like I say, when in doubt, always go with something in the 7 range because it's pretty much your all around reel gear ratio that you can use. I have fished jerkbaits with a lot lower gear ratio before, like a 5 and a 6. And to me, like the cadence is off with how I pick up line and when I jerk it. And it's just like, it's too much reeling. I've also fished it with an 8.1 to 1 and that works decent. Like I'm not terrible at that, but the 7 to me is just the perfect all around gear ratio. All right, guys, that's jerkbait fishing. It's one of my favorite things to do. That is the rod and reel and why I like it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will see you tomorrow.